Hey everybody, this is Jimmy with The Unusual Mind, and I'm still watching bad movies so you don't have to. On this episode of Behind the B Movie, we take a look at the 1987 black horror comedy Street Trash. So, make sure to add some ice to your toxic waste because we are swilling some back with the extra gooey homeless residents of the junkyard. Street Trash is a 1987 American black comedy horror film directed by J. Michael Murrow. The film was based on a 10-minute student film directed by Murrow and starring Mike Lackey. It was his first attempt at directing and was apparently meant to be Murrow's thesis for film school. It was not accepted, and he was not surprised, although he would not have much of a career directing features. He was the Steadicam operator of choice for James Cameron, working on such hit films as The Abyss, Terminator 2, Judgment Day, True Lies, and Titanic. He went on to do a lot of directing for television as well, directing multiple episodes of shows like Longmire and SEAL Team. The film was written by Roy Frumkes, who would go on to write the 1996 film The Substitute, as well as being the first zombie to be pied in the horror classic Dawn of the Dead. In an NPR profile, he later said about Street Trash, "I wrote it to democratically offend every group on the planet, and as a result, the youth market embraced it as a renegade work. It was played at midnight shows." The film was produced in Brooklyn in 1984 and was shot throughout New York City. The wrecking yard where most of the film takes place actually belonged to Murrow's father. The filmmakers also acquired most of the vehicles and set dressings from there, as well as the junkyard next door.
Improvisation. Jim Murrow, the director, who directed from a script by Roy Frumkes, who was the producer of the film, was very good with his actors in terms of giving them a lot of freedom and keeping a very loose feel on the set. We had the luxury of a fairly long shoot for a relatively low-budget movie.
I heard that the script was written around the location, which is a car.
Yeah, it was an auto collision yard on the Brooklyn-Queens borderline, sort of adjacent to hell. It was,
they call it Twilight.
Well, it really was. It was the most polluted area that I've ever been in for a long period of time. With right downstream from a slaughterhouse with pigs' heads floating by.
The plot revolves around a liquor store owner who finds a case of cheap wine called Tentafly Viper in his basement. It was more than 60 years old and is gone bad, but he decides to sell it to the local hobos anyway. Unfortunately, anyone who drinks the Viper melts away in a hideous fashion. Meanwhile, an overzealous cop is trying to get to the bottom of all the deaths. And while trying to end the tyranny of a deranged Vietnam veteran named Bronson, who's made his self-proclaimed kingdom in the junkyard and a group of homeless vets under his command as his personal henchmen. Bronson was played by Vic Noto, who was cast a day before principal photography began. He said, and I quote, "I didn't know what the hell I was doing, nor did I ever understand who Bronson was. I did scene by scene, not even knowing what the movie was about. I didn't read the script until 3 months after I was wrapped. I still don't know who Bronson was." The film also starred Mike Lackey, who also did makeup and visual effects as well. The film is littered with darkly comedic deaths and injuries. It also contains the notorious severed penises scene, where a group of homeless people play keep away with the severed genitalia of one of their victims. Lackey sculpted the penises. He made 3 different sizes: the little one, which he called the pecker, the medium-sized one, which he called the poker, and the big one, which he called the packer. The big one was used mostly for the aerial close-up scenes and was said to be the size of a football. Some of the actors in the film also had real-life allusions to their characters. Bill Chappelle, who plays the cop, was an actual New York City police officer before making the film. And Miriam Zucker, who is gang raped and murdered in the film, was actually brutally attacked by thugs in a New York City subway station several years before making the film. The attack left her partially deaf and with a large scar on her scalp. The scene where her character is attacked in the junkyard brought back the feelings of fear and dread she felt during the incident. Some of the most interesting scenes in the movie are the excellent effects used on such a shoestring budget. These scenes, referred to as the melts, brings the body horror aspect into the film. The first meltdown in the destroyed bathroom required 4 different sets and locations, including an oversized toilet. The melts were all done in stages. Ed, the liquor store owners, involved a little person for the final shot. Producers were unsuccessful in getting product sponsorship for the film. The only company that was interested was the manufacturer of Drake's Coffee Cakes, which would send the cast and crew a box of snacks every week. By the end of the 3-month shoot, everyone had eaten enough of the snack. So, when it came time for the scene when the fat bum explodes, a fake stomach was filled with boxes and boxes of Drake's Coffee Cakes. In the commentary, Morrow said, "I do know that the explosion is one of the best things in the movie. We just took every piece of junk that we can find. Food items, leftover pizza from the crew's lunch, foam rubber, methacellulose, and the sizzling stuff on the car worked real good." The idea in Street Trash of the drunken and destitute drinking toxic waste is not limited to this film. It is also found in the Nuke Face papers from Alan Moore's comic book run of Swamp Thing, issues 35 and 36 in 1985. The film was given a limited release theatrically in the United States by Lightning Pictures in June 1987. For the film's premiere, the cast and crew arrived hanging from the garbage truck as opposed to renting a limo. It won a Silver Raven at the Brussels International Festival of Fantasy Film. The film has acquired the status as a cult classic and is one of the number of films known as melt movies. The film was released on VHS later that same year, and in 2005, Synapse Films marketed an all-new digitally remastered version of the film. Included in the DVD were sticker-type labels of the Viper wine featured in the film. In 2006, a second release by Synapse Film was announced featuring the documentary Meltdown Memoirs by writer Roy Frumkes. In 2010, Arrow Video released a 2-DVD set in the UK featuring the documentary Meltdown Memoirs along with a previously unavailable featurette and a booklet, 40-Second Street Trash, The Making of Melt, written by Callum Waddell. Overall, Street Trash is a truly sleazy, crass, and more than a little offensive movie that would be hard-pressed to be produced today. The death by gang rape is bested only by the dash of necrophilia that follows. But as nasty as it gets, the comical tone remains throughout the film. Even with its many faults, the movie remains a fun reminder of a decade in film where literally anything could happen in horror. It's gross, absurd, and doesn't take itself seriously at all. I like to think of Street Trash as being a Traumaville film if it was competently made. I guess the one true contribution Street Trash made to film was the development of a young future director, Brian Singer, who was a production assistant on the film. Singer would go on to direct such films as The Usual Suspects, as well as many of the films in the X-Men franchise. Think about that. Without Street Trash, we may not have the modern-day superhero phenomena. Well, I guess that's a bit of a stretch, but you know, everything about this film is. And this has been Jimmy with The Unusual Mind, once again watching bad movies so you don't have to. Make sure to give us a like, a subscribe, and share this film with anyone who might be interested in B-movies.
I'll bite your heart. You call me listen to everything I say. Listen.